Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. In today's tutorial, I've been requested on how to create a basic shoot function using the previous tutorial's button function. This was requested by Mert on the YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing as well. And so what I've done, if you guys are observant and look up on the corner, you will see I'm actually using one of my old projects here, which is a joystick project. And if I run this project, I'm just going to show you what I've done. So all I've done is I've just used the old project, so I've just updated the joystick, nothing fancy there. We've got some movement, because obviously if we're going to create a shoot function, we also want to show how the player interacts with it, and I've just created a button. Right now the button doesn't do anything, but as you can see, works as intended. So in this tutorial, we're going to cover how pass-throughs work as well. This is important for the player. So previously I used a global, but this time we're going to use a pass-through. And that's important, and I'll explain why in a moment. So, as always, I've had a bit of a think on this, and I'm doing it a bit free ball as always. So here you'll see my object. So in here you'll see I've just got a var button push, set to 0. My step event, which is using for checking. So this is designed for mobile as well. I should highlight that. And it's just doing the basic system, as we'd expect. So I press the button, we get 1, and then if I release it, I get a 0. And I'm just drawing a sprite. Nothing fancy. The joystick object is pretty much the same as from the former one. There's nothing that's been modified about this. Let me just expand that so everyone can see. So pretty much the same script as I've used before in the past. And if I expand that, you'll see again the same script. The only thing I've updated is this value here, which relates into the draw function, which is there and there, which just changes the size of the thumbstick because it was a bit big. I couldn't be bothered drawing it smaller. Okay, now that's out of the way. That was lengthy. Let's get to programming. So, what we're going to want is we want the player to be able to shoot the object, right? So, if I go here, I just create an object. I'm just going to create a sprite called, I don't know, bullet. Something like that. Edit. Super simple. I'm just going to make it 16 by 16, which I think is still a bit big. And I'm just going to draw a nice circle. We're going to make it a yellow, just so it's nice and obvious. And then I'm just going to create an object. And I'm going to call it bullet. Beautiful. So, what we effectively want to happen, mechanically anyway, if we're thinking about this, is as we play the game, I press the button needs to talk to the player to tell the player to create a bullet to shoot. And then obviously the bullet uses a collision with whatever we're looking to hit. So, the first step in this whole process is I actually need to go in here, and this here is not necessary code. And the reason for that is once the player is done dealing with the function, it will hand back this value, and I'll show you guys how that works. So here in my begin step, now I'm going to actually program this how you would in the new Gamemaker, so because new Gamemaker doesn't allow for multiple files as far as I'm aware. So here, what we're going to do, so two things I want. I'm just going to copy my value here, like that, like that. And then I'm going to go if bracket object button A. So this is where we can reference. So if I do that, right? So that's no different from me doing an ID. So ID says to return myself in Gamemaker, or if I do self, it's the same thing. It's calling itself. So what I'm doing here is I'm calling the object button A, and I'm referencing the push button, and if it's equal to 1, it's going to create, oh no, sorry, like I said, still remembering old code here, create at X, Y, and we're going to create the object bullets, which is there. And if we just do that, guaranteed this is going to completely ruin the program, but let's try it. Basically, what I'm going to be expecting is it just creates an infinite amount of bullets. And look at that. Which is fine, because that's what we expect, because we're not disengaging the push button. So what we would do here then is, in here what we need to do is build a bit of a time function. Because obviously, as the player shoots, we don't want them to have infinite amount of bullets, do we? So here, if I go var, and I go temp timer, and this could break as from my memory, because I can't remember if Gamemaker plays nice like this. So temp timer will be equal to 0. And then here, what we do is, if that's done that, we then need to go, we shoot a bullet. Ooh, this is always the tricky logic here. If temp timer is less than or equal to 1, yeah, we'll call it 1 for now. Temp timer needs to plus equals 0.1. Else, and like I said, this could horribly break as a warning. It's been a while since I've built shoot functions. So what we're basically doing is creating a set of logic in the program to tell it how we want it to behave. So we've got it creating a bullet, all well and good. We've got the temp timer, and I might need to pass that over as an actual value, and that's what I'm just quickly checking now. Because like I said, this has always been a bit of time since I've done this. So basically what's happening here, and this is not going to work the way I want it to, because the temp timer here is in this loop form, what's going to happen is it's going to keep looping and resetting itself back to 0. So what I need to do is here, we'll call var shoot timer. I set it to 0. And let's pull that right in here. Let's get rid of that. I'll comment that out for a second. So here, excuse my phone there. That doesn't help if I reset some of the functions I need. So once that's equal to the value we need, so this will only let us shoot once until we set a reset in there. But let's test it. Let's see what it's done. So it's not resetting, which means my logic is incorrect. So shoot timer is less than or equal to 1. Shoot. And this could be like last week where I made the incorrect assumption of value. Draw text. Let's do it properly this time. As you can see, I've learnt my syntax. We want 32. Yes, 32. Hopefully that then shows us our shoot timer. So this is part of the debug process as well when we're writing these programs. Beautiful. Oh, so it does work. But I think I know what the problem is. So here, less than or equal to, else it needs to so the problem here is I didn't actually hand the passover back. So you can see here I need to actually assign that there. So let's see what happens now. This is why debugging is important as well. Look at that. So what needs to happen now is once this is achieved, the timer needs to reset itself back to 0 as well. And now when I run the program, let's see what it does. So you'll see, I can't spam the button, but I should get a nice regular shooting pattern. Now, that's the first step done. The next step that we need to do is, very simply, we're going to program the bullet. Now, there's multiple ways you can do this. I'm doing it a bit of a cheap way, where I'm just going to program this internally into my function, and I'm just going to give it some very basic parameters. So you can see I'm creating a temp ID on the object there. Now, temp ID, one of the things we can do when we create an object is we can actually grab the ID information straight off it as we create it. And then the beauty of that is, now that I know what my bullet is, I can go speed is equal to 5. And again, take my temp ID. My direction is... Oh, come on. Come on. Come on, brain. Direction is equal to... And get this. Direction. Like so. So now what we should get is when we run the program, let's take a look. So it partially works. Not perfectly, but it does partially work. So what we need to do in here is, once this is created, so the push function here is what's giving us the trouble, because it's basically saying once it's equal to that, it's going to loop. So what I need to do here is basically, once that's triggered, it starts the timer. In starting the timer, we need to create a little subset, if bracket, and I'll come back to that in a second just so I can clear my input function, like so. So if my shoot timer is equal to 0.1, because that's our increment of increase, it's going to run the creation process once. So this is just tricking the system to just get in at that first instance. And this is just one way to create a shoot function. It's super easy to do. As you can see, now I only get one bullet. And as you can see, if I try to spam the button, I can press and hold it, I get a single shot, but I can't spam it and shoot multiple bullets. So that's super important. So if I expand that, let's just take a look. Super easy, but super important. So you can see here, the basic idea is I'm passing through the object ID, I'm pulling the button status. The button status is 1. Once button status is 1, trigger shoot timer, which is the value that's stored inside my create here. And basically what that does is then cycles through. So you'd now say, well, what if I want to increase the speed at which my gun shoots? So if I change that 0.5, and I have to make sure to make this change as well, because these two will be directly correlated, because this jumps in just at the first time that starts to create the object, and then it should work the same way. So now I should have doubled the shooting speed, or half the time it takes to shoot. Let's see if that works. Oh no, sorry, I slowed it down. The reason it slowed down is because it's got a larger value that it needs to increase by. Same point though. So if I do the reverse, if I do that, so that should now really halve it. Quite a lot, actually. Let's take a quick look. So as you can see, I've really sped up the shooting now, haven't I? So that's the basic shoot function. And then all you would need to do in the bullet, as the example, is with the bullet, once we collide with a wall, I just want to destroy the object, which is instance. Destroy? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. This could go horribly wrong. It's been a while since I've had to use the destroy function. And obviously we want to make sure to clean stuff up in our game field. So let's just make sure this works correctly. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so that's the tutorial for today. Super easy. All I'm using, again, I'll just quickly cover it. I've just got a push function here. It's the same thing as the global I was using, but in this one, I'm just handing it over using the ID of the object rather than the global function, just to make the code a bit more internalized for the player object so there's less interference. All I've done here is I've got the same push function, I'm just simply drawing the same information there. The joystick operates the same way. The wall has nothing other than it's flagged as a solid, and my player object is doing most of that heavy lifting with the shoot function that I've created with this simple code. So this here is the code for shooting. So that's all you need to make it work. There's nothing else hidden anywhere else other than me drawing that text, which we don't need anymore. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you guys are staying safe because we're still in this lovely pandemic, we'll say. And yeah, if you want to see anything else, please feel free to ask. I do try to keep these videos short, and have a great day.